Congratulations to you, the Pistons, and the city of Detroit.
The bad boy Detroit Pistons are one of the best teams of all time. They were all about showing their aggression, toughness, and ferociousness. However, they needed a mix of that and skill. Two players represented that the most. Isaiah Thomas, their best player, and the man right behind him, Joe Dumars. Dumars, one of the most underrated players of all time, doesn't get enough credit. He was the second best player on the Bad Boy Pistons and one of the best two-way players of all time. This, to me, puts him in the conversation to be a top 75 player in NBA history. As I mentioned earlier, the 6'3" shooting guard of the 80s and 90s for the Pistons was an amazing two-way player. On the offensive side of the ball, he was a good ball handler, a reliable three-point shooter, and a nice passer. He made All-NBA team 3 times, was great at finishing around the rim with runners, floaters, layups, and he was a fantastic mid-range shooter. From 1988 to 1995, he averaged about 20 points and was efficient with his scoring, shooting 46% from the field in the defensive era. Speaking of, on the defensive side, Dumars was even better, racking up 5 all-defensive teams, 4 of which was first-team nods. He was an integral part of the Bad Boys' defense, as they often put him on the best guards in the league. More on that a little later. But Joe Dumars was a 6-time All-Star for the Pistons, even though that wasn't his most impressive feat. He helped the Pistons get to 3 straight NBA Finals and winning back-to-back NBA championships in 1989 and 1990. In the 1989 Finals win, Dumars was awarded Finals MVP, averaging 27 points, 6 assists, and shooting 57% from the field. A remarkable feat. Dumars not being in the NBA's top 75 list was most likely due to the fact of those Bad Boy Pistons teams. When you look back at those teams, they were brash, arrogant, controversial, and very vocal. Joe Dumars was none of those things. He was humble, quiet, and was not in as much controversy compared to his teammates. Hence why I believe people tend to forget about him, as he's overlooked compared to everybody else on the team. Besides that, Dumars had all the talent and skill. He didn't need to be vocal or very aggressive with his basketball play. He was just him, a silent assassin that can kill you without doing or saying much. And he came up big when he needed to. For example, like in the 1989 Finals against Magic's Lakers. Game 2 of the Finals, a game in which Isaiah Thomas got into foul trouble early and sat for the early part of the game. He scored 17 points in that time span, while Isaiah was sitting and finished the game with 33. Not to mention, in the very next game, he came out in the second half and torched the Lakers, scoring 17 straight points and having 21 of his 31 points come in that third quarter. These 2 performances would help lead the Pistons to sweep the Lakers, ending their 80s dynasty. If for some reason that wasn't enough, during the Pistons' historical rivalry with the Bulls in the late 80s and early 90s, Joe Dumars, for the most part, had the task of containing the unguardable Michael Jordan. Of course, he wasn't left to guard him on an island, as a lot of the Pistons helped, but they trusted him enough defensively to guard the greatest of all time in his prime. He, of course, did not stop Jordan, but he helped contain him, as when guarded by Joe, Jordan was less efficient with his shooting compared to other players trying to guard him. Don't believe me on how much of a good job Dumars did guarding Jordan? Well, take it from the GOAT's mouth himself, as MJ has been quoted as saying that Joe Dumars was the best defender he's went up against. All in all, Joe Dumars deserves a lot of respect and recognition. He was an elite two-way player that could score and defend the best of the best at a high level. He was the second best player and extremely important piece on a historically great and memorable team. And he was a finals MVP that had clutch performances going up against another historical team. So now, you tell me, has Joe Dumars earned a right to be named on the NBA's top 75 list?